Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to be talking about a prediction I have concerning Dungeons & Dragons. So here's my prediction. I, J. Scott Garibay, in January of 2018, am predicting that Kate Welch, the brand new Dungeons & Dragons A-Team game designer that's been hired onto the A-Team, the primary design team for the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rule set, that she will be the primary architect. She will be, Kate Welch specifically, will be the lead designer for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. For Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. Kate Welch will be the lead designer for Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition. And in addition to that, the work on Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition will begin within 2 years. Okay? So, I know that's a lot to say, hey, I think Kate Welch is going to be the lead designer for 6th edition when she literally has just been hired as part of the team. But I actually think it's really obvious, like the math adds up. So let me present that. Let me present my evidence that this prediction will come true, okay? And why I believe this and why I'm predicting it now. All right, so first, Kate Welch is unique in that she is the first panoptically heralded Dungeons & Dragons A-Team game designer. So one, it really wasn't possible to be panoptically heralded prior to her being hired. And the reason why is, so essentially the position she filled was very, very, it was spread across by Wizards of the Coast across every single social media platform that they have. It was talked about very openly, and so there was a call for game designers that went out, right? So that call goes out, and it's saying, hey, everybody, put in your resumes. We're going to get a new Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game A-Team game designer. And so the position itself was panoptically heralded, and then when Kate Welch was chosen to fulfill that role, she was absolutely panoptically heralded by Wizards of the Coast, right? And the reason why that's important is it distinguishes her immediately. She's the first panoptically heralded Dungeons & Dragons A-Team game designer that's ever existed, right? And I think Mike Mearls is probably one of the first real celebrity game designers, right? Chris Perkins is up there. We're going to talk about Chris Perkins in a minute. As far as Dungeons & Dragons, Monty Cook, his name had gotten out there a little bit, but I think he shut down his own Dungeons & Dragons hype by quitting the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition team. Okay, so right now, who is going to design Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition? And actually, I should talk about why am I even talking about Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition now? The reason why is, get this. Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition came out in 2014, and we're now in 2018. That's a span of 4 years, okay? Now, 4th edition only lasted, I think it was very short. It was like between 2008 and 2014, which is 6 years. Is a very, very short period, okay? And the reality is just the pace of our world. I think you're going to have any major role-playing game, you're going to have a new edition within 5 to 10 years, absolutely guaranteed. So, in my opinion, logically, the next edition of Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition will come out about, I would say, 6 to 8 years after 2014, which means we're talking 2020 or 2022, okay? And that means that right now, they've really got to start thinking about 6th edition right now. And I really would not be surprised if there really hasn't already been very, very concerted talks about Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition in-house at Wizards of the Coast about Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, right? So here's how you get to Kate Welch as the lead designer on Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, right? Well, one, that person, the person who is going to be the lead designer for Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, is only going to be someone from the A-Team game design. And the reason why is it's so complex, you can't bring somebody in from external and start that process. That's almost a guaranteed failure, okay? All right, so I'm contending that the lead designer for 6th edition is on the A team today, right? So that means that the pool of people who can possibly be the lead designer is very, very small, okay? Now, and that pool is everybody who's on the Dungeons & Dragons A-team game design team right now, right? And by the way, when I say A-team, there's a bunch of freelancers and stuff like out there. I don't think any of them are going to be considered. And the reason why is, they only see a small portion. They do the writing part. It's just a small portion of the process, right? In order to see the full-blown scope of it, you need to be in the room, right? Just the way they say in Hamilton, right? All right, so who is on that current Dungeons & Dragons A-team game design team? Well, right now, it's, in my opinion, it's 3 people plus, right? It's Mike Merles, it's Chris Perkins, it's Kate Welch, and then it's plus, right? Which is, there's some small number. I think it might be between like 3 and 5 other people, right? None of those people are going to be considered for it, in my opinion. And the reason why is none of them have distinguished themselves. I follow Dungeons & Dragons very, very closely. I love that game. I think it's the grandfather of all tabletop role-playing games. It is, is the father of all tabletop role-playing games. It is the source from which the energy of the entire tabletop role-playing game industry is derived. It is the banner holder. Dungeons & Dragons is so important to the hobby. So I cover it closely, right? And I can't tell you who those other people are. And the reason why, if any of them had written their own tabletop role-playing game, or Kickstarter or anything like that, it would have got on my map, right? But the reality is they're busy, right? And none of them have distinguished themselves. So I think that takes them off the board for being the lead designer. Because right now, celebrity DMs, celebrity writer, celebrity game designers is absolutely a thing, right? Monty Cook, John Harper, Fred Hicks, these are all celebrity game designers. You see them in different places. In the nature of our world, celebrity game designers has become a thing, right? So that only leaves the 3: Kate Welch, right? Mike Merles, and Chris Perkins. Well, Mike Merles is out, right? Honestly, I will tell you right now, I don't know why Mike Merles is at Wizards of the Coast right now. And the only reason why I say that is he did an amazing job of bringing forward 5th edition. But I actually think you could hinge an entire, Monty Cook has his own company, and he's building his own games, right? And honestly, I really feel that Mike Merle's job is done with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. It's baked, right? And I definitely get that it's very comfortable for him to stay there and to continue to, just kind of nurse, use a prodding stick on Dungeons & Dragons every now and then. But, the reality is I don't think he's really, let me put it this way. Making sure that Dungeons & Dragons moves along once the new edition is delivered is an important job, right? But I think Mike Merles is bigger than that, right? He's bigger than just standing next to the game and, patting it on the back and making sure it's fed good food, he's a caretaker at this point, rather than a great innovator and a great creator. And I think that's what Mike Merles is. I think he's an incredible innovator, an incredible creator, right? And I would really like to see him start his own business and move out, do something, go over and lead Modifius, or, just do something tremendous, right? I just feel like his task set, his skill set is bigger than what he's doing right now. Although I definitely, much sympathy for him. I definitely understand. I would be very comfortable at, Wizards of the Coast if I was in his shoes, and so I definitely understand him staying around. Who wants to leave Dungeons & Dragons? That's a hard thing, and it would be scary to go out on your own. So I wholly understand why he's there. I just really think that at this point he's just caretaking, right? But there is something he could do. He could be mentoring the new design, the lead designer for 6th edition, which is exactly what I think he's about to do. I think he's going to mentor Kate Welch, right? And she's going to learn from Chris Perkins and everybody else on that team, including Mike Merles. But I think Mike Merles can teach her, this is how you get the job done. This is how you deliver a rock star edition of Dungeons & Dragons. He's really the only one who's done it. Third edition was amazing, but, the things that made that successful wouldn't work today. And I think Mike Mearls had just a really good understanding, right? Let's talk about Chris Perkins, okay? Chris Perkins is a really strong candidate to be the lead designer for Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, but I think there's one reason why he will not be the Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition lead designer, and that is he's too much like Mike Mearls, right? He delivered 5th edition, right? And so if you put Chris Perkins in there, you're going to get a product that's really a lot like 5th edition, right? So what's the point of having the new edition, right? So that's just it is. I think as the first panoptically heralded Dungeons & Dragons A-Team game designer, Kate Welch is uniquely positioned to bring something really unique to 6th edition. I think Mike Mearls understood this when she was hired. I think Chris Perkins, even though he could do a good job of it, it just really would not be as distinct as you would need it to be from what had already been delivered once by, specifically by Mike Mearls, right? So you really need that, you need to have that distinction. So I think that only leaves Kate Welch, that she's the only one that's actually left in order to do the actual task, right? So I think on that team, right? So, and I think it's really exciting, and the reason why is I think she will do a really good job as the lead designer of Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, and the reason why is she came over from Penny Arcade, and Penny Arcade is just a beast, man. It is a beast of a company, right? And so Penny Arcade is they rake in millions and millions of dollars with their online content, their webcomic content. And then they've had tremendous success with conventions, right? And so that's another thing is Dungeons & Dragons lost control in many ways of Gen Con. Gen Con has become a board gaming convention, right? Now, and the biggest tabletop role-playing game convention in the world really has more to do with meeples than it has to do with dice. And I think that's really sad, and I want to see that get fixed, right? Well, if you bring in somebody who's already worked with Penny Arcade that closely, which Kate Welch has, she's just a really, really unique leader for Dungeons & Dragons, specifically from that perspective of her being the first panoptically heralded Dungeons & Dragons A-Team game designer. I think she's going to do a fantastic job, and I predict now Kate Welch will be the lead designer on Dungeons & Dragons 6th edition, and design will start within 2 years. Take care.